if we're stuck in our old paradigm that success, when your sentence working out, is the outer thing, then you're doomed to fail. What working out looks like is that you yourself have become a more whole, deeper, joyful, spirited individual. The suggestion is, instead of living for joy, live from joy. Instead of living for success. So instead of trying to...
Hello and welcome to the Swedish Wealth Institute Podcast. My name is Daniel Wood. I'm your host, and welcome to this amazing conversation with Moshe Gersht. Moshe is a spiritual leader, best-selling author, speaker, and former lead singer of a rock band who now helps people understand happiness, ego, destiny, free will, and how to live from a deeper sense of peace and presence. I really appreciate you being here with us today. At the Swedish Wealth Institute, our mission is to connect you with the right mentor at the right time for you to live your mission. And I think it says a lot about who you are as a person that you're taking this time to learn, to grow, and work on yourself. Our goal is always to become 1% better every day. And that's the exact goal of this podcast, is to help you do the same. In this podcast, we're going to talk about how to find happiness without making it dependent on outside outcomes. We get into Moshe's journey from music and rock and roll to Jerusalem and a deep spiritual study to why so many of us live in what he calls if there, then distortion, and how to move from the noise of the ego into a more quiet presence and inner peace. Let's get into it. Hey, Moshe, welcome to the Swedish Wealth Institute Podcast.
Oh, thank you, Daniel. It's really good to be here.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this because one of the things you talk about a lot is how to be happy without having to, outside outcomes create that happiness. Tell me more about that. What does that mean?
It's funny. For me, when I think about happiness, I can't help but start with the fact that I feel overly blessed. I was born on the happier side of the spectrum. So I recognize that coming into this, and that is a gift. But it's not to say that life hasn't come with its hard lessons learned throughout the way. And when I started my journey, my spiritual journey, you'd say, it didn't start in the typical spiritual way. I was the lead singer, songwriter of a rock band for a decade, right? That was like my whole life. And I was in love. It was just the most fun in the world to be on stage and to really feel the crowd and the audience and to share. Like, that's what happiness felt like to me. It was like the feeling of being alive. And then around 7 years into that journey, as things, we signed to a label and MTV and radio and that world.
For those who remember MTV, right?
For those who remember radio.
Yeah, radio, yeah.
It was a different world. Going to a record, like having our album in, Best Buy and Tower Records. It was like, whoa, that was amazing.
Yeah, that is cool.
What is a record store and what is a CD today? But yeah, I was...
It is cool, though, that you were sold retail. That you got to say. Not a lot of us have been sold retail.
Yeah, it's funny. That's so funny. Anyway, so somewhere along the way, my drummer got addicted to meth. And it was a harsh reality. It's where sex, drugs, and rock and roll really landed for me the first time.
Yeah, sadly, it's way too common. I know a few musicians who either themselves or band members have gone through the same thing.
Yeah, it's very typical. And you can understand it, meaning an artist is an artist for a particular kind of reason. It's like stereotypical, but because they feel deeply and they're tuning into something, and it's very easy to want to find escape. And it got me thinking. And then on the next tour we went on, I really noticed kind of like the elders of my career path, the people who were like really successful, and they were like 10 years, maybe sometimes 2 decades ahead of me. And I saw the lifestyle, and these were like pretty well-known groups who were either smashed or completely like escaping. They were escaping reality.
Oh, wow.
And it dawned on me that you could be successful at what you do, but still fail at life.
Right. Even though they were living the dream.
That was the dream. That was everything we were going for. And I'm not saying this is true for everyone, right? Or for every single
individual. You just
individual.
saw it too many times to feel comfortable.
Yeah. It was more like an awakening. It was like an epiphany of like, oh, right, just because you're doing something that looks exciting, and even if you're successful at it, it doesn't promise peace. It doesn't promise happiness.
Right.
And so that's kind of what set me up.
That's a beautiful insight, because this is what most of Western culture looks for, right? It's, if I achieve X, I will feel I, whatever that is.
Exactly. I mean, that's really the nature of humanity, which is I want to feel good. We just have different words for what good is. So I want to feel successful, or I want to feel love, or I want to feel safe, or I want to feel, fill in the blank with what that is. Yeah. It's just good, right? It's, I want to feel good about myself and about the world I'm living in, about my...
It's like the pursuit of happiness.
Exactly. And so in my book, it's all the same to me. We call it the if, there, then distortion. We're convinced, right? Our mind, our egos distort reality and tell us, well, if I get to this other circumstance, or to there in space, or to then in time, then I'll be okay. Then I'll be happy. If there, then. Right? Yeah. So if I could just change this thing, or get to this place, or get to this time, then everything will be okay. And we always end up back where we started, because nothing on the outside is ultimately the thing that's going to unlock that, call it peace of mind, fulfillment, joy. Right. That's something that's much closer to the essence of our being. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against high achieving. I'm all for it. I was excited, when our book became a bestseller. Like I still think it's great to have goals and to aspire and to achieve, but it's the dependency on the outer thing which starts to undo our life.
So what did you do when you had that insight as a rock star or budding rock star? Because obviously you've gone a completely different route.
Yeah, you can see I shaved my mohawk.
Something was missing.
Being a nice Jewish kid from Southern California, I didn't end up in Bali or in Vatican City or something. I ended up in Jerusalem. I was on a search for meaning and for purpose. I went to study in a yeshiva. I spent about 12 years.
You were born Jewish, so as a rock star, you were Jewish. You didn't convert.
Correct. I didn't convert, but I was raised in a pretty open home. So I had strong Jewish identity, but I wasn't practicing in any sort of fundamental way. I had a good amount of baseline formal education growing up, but it really took this to kind of break me out of my shell and say okay, well, does my heritage have an answer to some of these questions?
Right.
In a way that really, got me all the way in.
You left the band to go and find yourself, essentially.
Yeah. I left LA and I moved to Jerusalem.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
And what did you find?
Yeah, it's funny. At first, you could say I found religion. That was kind of like the first stop, and it was just another stop along the way. I fell in love with this thing called Torah, which is the kind of the Jewish embodiment of spiritual practice. And then I met my wife and fell in love with her and started a family. And
it tends to help, yeah.
Yeah, and so there was a lot of love. I was feeling really good and really aligned for a while. It almost felt like I went from looking for meaning and success on the outer layer to more of an inner layer. Okay, I was trying to find it in a career path, and now I'm finding meaning in ideas, in philosophies, in family, in something that felt more real or more, closer to my heart in some way. But then again, I want to say around 6 or 7 years into that journey, I found myself questioning again. I had another dark night of the soul where I felt like I was living the embodiment of what now something outside of me was telling me was right. Something outside of me was defining as this is how you'll find success and meaning. And it was almost like the same voice that brought me here led me to a place where I fell into the same kind of outer trap where I was trying to become something for something outside of my
Right.
own inner
Like
voice.
how spiritual and good I am. Now give me the
Right.
credibility and
Something to that effect. And also really, there was this part of the mind that still really cared about perception,
yeah.
still really cared about what I converted outer success to a more inner model. And it took one more step going further into the world of Jewish mysticism through what's called Kabbalah and Hasidus, which really started to bring me back to something more fundamental, which was like, whoa, there's this whole layer of ego that we're living in that's keeping us separate from our innate sense of goodness, our innate sense of soul. And that's where I started to see this cross connection, cross pollination, a universal understanding of, it's not just in Judaism as much as it was, if you go to the deepest parts of all spiritual paths, they're taking you to this, you call it the soul, call it consciousness, call it unconditional love, whatever language you use to talk about what's beyond the psychology that keeps us trapped in the outer, right? And that's really where the shift opened up for me to realize, that thing you're chasing, it's not even in the ideas of meaning. It's really just coming back home, which is something very internal, and that the God force lives within us and within our full experience. And that at no point are you getting it wrong in the cosmic sense. You're exactly where you're supposed to be, timeline-wise.
Right. And so I know you help a lot of people try to find this insight in themselves. How would you guide someone who is very, high achiever, where you were as a musician, but in whatever field they're in, that, it's the roaring crowd that makes me feel happy. How do you help them find that inner peace?
Yeah. So first, I mean, the TED Talk that I did is called The Two Conditions to Unconditional Happiness.
We'll link to that in the show notes.
Yeah. Those the kind of the two conditions that I see is there's really only two things that matter in any given moment for most of humanity. What do I believe about myself? What do I believe about the world I'm living in? Right? That's really it. You can call it you and God, or you can call it you in the universe, but there's how you see you, and then there's how you see everything not you. Everything not you is part of the non-you experience. So we'll just call it the world, right? So your friends, as well as your car and your cat and your dog, and what's going on in India and China and America and South Africa, whatever is happening, and then the rest of the planets in the universe, it's all not you through your localized experience. And you either see yourself as good and able or not, and you see the universe as good and supportive or not. Like that's where we start. When I sit with anybody, I first try to identify is, do you see yourself as good? If you don't, the second question doesn't even start, because the world acts as a mirror. If I don't see myself as good, I don't see a good world.
Right.
If I don't see myself as worthy, I don't even see a world that wants to support, because I'm not worthy. That meaning by the fact that I don't see myself as a worthy individual, that I need to go prove something in reality, that means I actually don't see a supportive universe.
Right. So how do you help? How do you first identify with someone if they actually see themselves as good and worthy or not?
I mean, I could ask you right now, right? Which is,
but I mean, I think it's such a loaded questions. I think the answer automatically, I mean, for me is, well, partially yes, definitely, but also parts where it's like, well, but not, I'm not perfect. There are still, still things I'm working on.
So one of the things that I put together is, it's a 40-point. It's like online. You would click on the link and you actually answer. There's 10 questions per category of, am I good? Am I able? Is the universe good? Is it supportive of me and my dreams? And you answer all these questions, and then scored out of 40, right? And exactly where it is that we see there's more or less availability, that's how we'll start working in together. But if we were like, if I'm just casually speaking to somebody, I mean, I think you can we can go straight into, what is it that you're afraid of? That's a question that we'll start with. What are the things that you're afraid of in the work that you do or in the life that you're living? Or conversely, I'll ask, what is it that you really want? Usually by the time someone's coming to me, they've already gone through some form of therapy or some coaching, or they've done some work. So they're usually not brand new questions, right?
Right.
If you're turning to a spiritual teacher, it's because you're looking for something that takes you transcendent to what's not really been working so far. But those are the questions. Like at the end of the day, what are you looking for?
Right. And are you trying, like, let's say they do that exercise and, maybe they're good. Let's say they hit a 36, but it's not a 40. Where are you trying to get them on that before you move to the second question?
If they're at a 36, they're probably not talking to me.
Okay.
That's the truth. Yeah. The truth is that, like, most people, when you go through this, I'll send it to you afterwards. You
and
can
we'll
go
link
through
to
it
it
and
in the
try
show
it.
notes as well. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like humanity is looking to feel better.
Yeah.
That's the truth. The truth is that, on a scale of 1 to 10, if I ask you, do you think that the universe is absolutely supportive, loves you, and wants you, to succeed in everything you do? Like, I don't know anybody really, unless they're like very, very tuned into some version of, spirituality, or they just finished a psilocybin trip or something, and then they're like 10, right? But most of the time we're walking around and we're thinking about very practical things. We're thinking about our finances. We're thinking about our relationships. We're thinking about our physical health and body image. We're thinking about our careers. We're thinking about our purpose. Those are kind of the 5 areas of life that I like to think about, right? And our perception of them being good or bad, if my relationships aren't going well, if I thought I was supposed to be married and I'm not, or if I'm in a relationship and I'm like, how am I still married to this person, right? Or like you're feeling pain, right? So then if I say, is the world a good world? And you're thinking about the fact that you're in a hard relationship or you couldn't get that relationship. It's like, well, the world doesn't feel good right now. And so one of the things we have to do is actually redefine good and bad. Most people define good by, I like it and it feels good. And they define bad by, I don't like it, it doesn't feel good.
Right.
Or good is, I understand it and I like it and I want it. And bad is, I don't understand it, I don't like it, and I don't want it.
Right.
Which is a very crude way of looking at reality, because it's completely subjective. Like that's actually why
how I feel every time I cook my kids dinner. That's the either or I'm getting back. Nope, this does not look edible. I do not understand what you've made me, and I do not want to eat this.
It's true. Right? That's how we go through life. I don't like it, or I do like it. I'm not going to eat it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually help us. That's not supportive to growth, because all it tells me is how you feel about something. And if that is our barometer, if that's how we measure success, or that's how we measure worthiness, or that's how we measure what good and bad is. So that's why there are arguments within families, and that's why there are wars between countries, because both sides think they're right, because they have different definitions of good and evil, of good and bad.
Right.
And so we actually have to let go of that definition of good and bad and go to something higher, like a capital G good, which I like to think of as, that which grows us, that which evolves us, that which connects us to a destiny, a path that is more real, not because of how I think about it, but because it's what it is.
Right. And how do we do that?
Well, I mean, part of it is these conversations, right? Like, practically speaking, right? Like,
just give me the answers to life already. Come on.
Well, I'll tell you, I think about it like this. Here's the framework. This is like one of the big frameworks we work on one-on-one, right? Which is, there's noise, there's quiet, there's light. The noise is the noise of the ego. What is the ego? The ego is not your personality, right? The ego is actually the thing that says things should be different. Anything in my life should be different than how it is. Either I should be different, the people in my life should be different, my circumstances should be different.
Yeah.
That is the source of all suffering. That's, textbook Buddhism 101. that's the Tao, that's Kabbalah, that's psychology. Like if I think that life should be different or I should be different, I'm in pain. What do we do from there? Everyone defaults to, okay, I don't want to be in the noise. I want to be in the light. The light is that place where I feel like I'm successful and I'm alive and I'm good and it feels good and I feel at peace and I feel loving. And then we have this vision of what comes with that, right? Which is all the outer stuff we described before. But the middle stage is actually the only way to get there. If I want to go from noise to this world of light and goodness and success, I actually have to go through quiet. And quiet here doesn't mean meditation per se. Yeah,
Right.
meditation's a great modality, but I mean the quiet of the mind that says things should be different.
So basically
see-
silencing of the ego.
Yes. And so the question is, how do you do that? Many different approaches, but I would suggest one of the easiest ways to at least hold space to put the ego aside is to ask yourself if you can step into a reality of destiny. Yeah. If destiny is something that you can subscribe to, this is the oldest philosophical conversation, which is it free will, is it choice, or is life determined? And the spiritual answer is both.
Yeah.
But you can only live from one frame at any time. So how I define destiny is the inevitable good.
Nice.
That has two sides to it, which is number one, things are inevitable, meaning you couldn't be any other way. Your neurobiological chemistry right now is based on how well you slept last night.
Yeah.
It's what you ate for breakfast today, but it's also everything you did up until this moment in your lifetime, as well as how your mother's pregnancy was, as well as everything your ancestors did, for the last 2,000 years, meaning it took everything to get to this moment for you.
Yeah.
Right. So when we think about free will, let's not think about it yet and realize that it took everything to get to this, to get to you. And so let's say I'm talking to anybody who's listening to this right now. I want you to stop and think about that for a minute, that if anything went different in the Spanish Inquisition, you might not even be here. Like everything matters. Like every single thing matters and is required to get to this moment. And so therefore this moment is inevitable. And at the same time, if you just have that doesn't necessarily give you peace. Like that actually might lead you into some version of like total surrender because you're like, oh, so I can't choose anything because I'm just a program.
Exactly. I'm not in control anymore.
Yes, I'm not in control. And so that's the other side of it, which is good, which takes us out of a more like materialist determinism and less of a stoic determinism and more of like a spiritual understanding, which is that there's actually a design to this and that your life is not random. It might be inevitable, but it's designed. And that includes all of the hardship because it's growing you. Like life is growing you to become something more than you were before. And you personally, as well as the collective. And so to the ego that says things should be different, I should be different. This one idea, if you can allow yourself to taste it, to drink from that and go there, to realize that in a very true sense. I mean, there's a lot of science to back up the fact that there's a book by Robert Sapolsky called Determined, where it's like a 700-page book on exactly this idea, which is that everything that's ever happened is what sets you up for this moment. But then there's every spiritual idea that's ever been said, which is that, and it's not an accident, right? It's evolutionary. It's growing you. You've never been in the wrong place at the wrong time. And all the things that you're going through in your life are on a personal level. They're growing this soul experience to what it came to this world to do, as well as the contribution it does for the collective.
Right. Yeah, no, I like that. Because I've always kind of seen it as, to try to answer that question of, is life determined or do we have free will? I kind of see it as a play or a movie that the script has been written, but we can choose what role we're going to play within it. So, in any movie, there's always improvising. The actors get to play around within it, and that's the free will we have that can, to a certain extent, change the direction of the movie and at the very least, completely change the role that we end up playing in the movie.
Yeah, it's funny. I used to see it exactly like that. Like that's kind of been my approach. I now sense that even the thought that I could improvise is also given, right? It's also written.
Yeah.
So it does. A person can feel like, wait, so does that mean I have no autonomy? It's like, is there no
That's
me?
my next question there. If that is written too, even my improvised lines, what am I actually controlling?
So what if we let go of control? I think it's the ego that wants that control.
Mm.
Meaning,
Yeah.
what if we put that down for a minute and said,
Right.
okay, like what if I didn't have control? I would still have to figure out what to eat for dinner. I'd still have to pick up my kids from school. I'd still have to get
Exactly.
on
I
this
can't
call.
just sit down on the couch and do nothing.
Right. So that's the thing, is that our incarnation, our lifetime, that is the gift of life, which is they both exist. I think about it as, you're familiar with like the double split experiment
No, please
in
share.
quantum mechanics?
Share so we make sure everyone, I've
Sure.
heard of it. I don't know the details of it. So please walk us through it.
Sure. So at the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, so theorists had come up with this idea of like quantum mechanics and non-locality in the universe, but it was more mathematical until they did an experiment in the late 20s where they wanted to measure a photon. They shot it. They shot a photon through two slits.
The double slits.
And that's right. And how it was going to act in observation would tell us, is light measured as a particle or a wave, right? Eventually, they did this for more than just photons. They were able to do this with electrons as well. And it turns out that the fabric of reality is actually built on the science of this experiment. And until today, it's like quantum electrodynamics is essentially the most verifiable science that we have. And what they found was something that baffled scientists, right? Which is that unobserved, the light acted as a wave, which means it was fluid and non-local. It wasn't in one place, right? It lived in essentially a space of potentialities.
Right.
But when measured, the wave collapsed and it was a particle in a single destination, which means that on some level, the light was both a particle and a wave, and it just depended on observation.
Right.
Some would say it came down to consciousness, right?
Right.
Like
the
what was
observer changed the experiment.
Exactly. Which meant that it was both 100% a wave and 100% a particle, but it just depended on the observation.
Right. And it was never 50-50. It was either or.
That's right. It was never 50-50, never 80-20, never 90-10, which is the reason why I bring this up, is it goes to your analogy to free will, which is like, it's basically determined, but I do have some free will. So that would be like, it's basically a wave, but it's somewhat a particle. And like, but that actually isn't how it works. It's actually 100% a wave and 100% a particle, but localized consciousness can only see it through one lens, right? You can't actually see both at the same time.
Right.
And so for you, what that means is there's what you know as a self-evident reality. That's what's observed. Yeah. And then there's what you know to be true, but you don't experience it. And that's what we call faith, right? Now, most people default to free will and have faith in destiny.
Right.
And when you do that, defaulting to choice is defaulting to ego, because it's my responsibility to get it right.
My job to make this happen.
Right. I'm suggesting you can default to destiny and have faith in your free will. Where you actually, your default observation is, it's all done, it's all written, it's all taken care of. There's no ego in that anymore. But I still have to have faith that my choices matter.
Right.
And it's a radical approach.
Yeah, that is a big difference. How does that play out in normal life?
Oh, it's beautiful. Well, because now you can't get it wrong.
Right.
Right? Meaning, so I still have to plan to the best of my ability how things are going to go.
Right.
But I'm not hung up on the outcomes, because the outcomes have nothing to do with me.
Right. You believe that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing at this point by making this plan, and whatever happens as a result of this plan was what was supposed to happen.
That's right. And even the fact that I can plan either as well or as not good as I was supposed to
happens,
which of course happens, right? Either which way, that too is part of design of a cosmic effect. And so what it does is when you're rooted in choice, what that means is how much money I make is on me. Like
Yeah.
I am the master and controller of that, which means if I have a bad year, I failed, right?
Yeah.
And it means that if I have a bad marriage, I failed. I'm a bad person. Like we associate failure with our moral reality. Like I'm bad. Like if I were better, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, exactly. That I've said to myself, if only I was better, then I would have had a better result.
That's right. And so like we are casting moral verdicts on our nature for things that were out of our control. All you can do, this is how I would look at free will in this conversation. Your free will is literally the next right decision you can make. And that's it. Now, how do you make that decision? Your decision is always impacted by the information you have and the state that you're in.
Right.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
It's the combination of information and state. And so if you can know that and you accept the fact that if I could have done better, I would have, then, right? Because that's just true, right? Like if you could have reached
if I'd been
for
in
the
a better state, or if I had information I lacked, then.
Which also allows you to live in forgiveness, because that means you couldn't have done better.
Right.
Because that's what's false. And that's where we start to see real breakthroughs. Like if I can sit with someone and like really hold their hand into the realization that it doesn't matter if you make, $200 million this year. If you still feel crummy at the end of the year, that means that, you're not there as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So let's undo that.
Right.
And how do we undo that is you're holding some standard to who you're supposed to be based on something that's arbitrary and impossible. It's not true. Like we made it up. We're causing the problem. Yeah.
I'm still wrapping my head around this right now. Give me a moment here.
Yeah, no, it's liberating.
Yeah. Terrifying at the same time though.
Is it? Which part of it's terrifying if it's all working out?
Well, it's the giving up of the control of it, of kind of saying, all right, I will allow myself to have this faith that everything is working out, and give myself the grace that I'm doing the best I can at any point in time.
Well, let's look at that first one together. When I say, and when you just said that everything is working out, let me clarify what I don't mean. I don't mean that if you do this, you will find the love of your life. You will become wealthy. You will live to 120 with perfect health. That it's changing our definition of what working out means.
Yeah.
You see, again, if we're stuck in our old paradigm, that success, or in your sentence, working out, is the outer thing, then you're doomed to fail.
Right.
Because that's actually not what working out looks like. What working out looks like is that you yourself have become a more whole, deeper, joyful, spirited individual, right? That's really what we're looking for. What are you really looking for in money and relationships? You're looking to feel good.
Yeah.
What are you looking for in having a body that looks a certain way? You want to feel good about yourself. You want to be healthy so you can live a long life. Why? Because it feels good to live. Right? Yeah. We want that. So the suggestion is, instead of living for joy, live from joy. Instead of living for success, live from success. And so it's all about inversing the path. So instead of trying to win at the game of life, realize that you can't lose.
Wow. Yeah. At the same time, as you say, that redefining that definition of success, that must be, at least for someone like me, that must be the hardest part.
Absolutely. Hands
saying
down.
Whatever happens is fine because it was supposed to happen, but I have a goal. This is where I'm going. So it's not okay.
Right. No, that's by far and away the hardest part, is redefining success as something internal and then using the outside as the stage that you're playing in. Meaning, that's why I mentioned earlier, I love the fun of it. Like finding myself in an entrepreneurial space. Like I didn't plan on this. I guess at first I was an artist And then I was a rabbi. And now it's, as a spiritual author with a platform and, doing, more coaching work. And each phase is very different. So it's like, I didn't plan on being here. So you can have a lot of goals that you want to go towards, but it doesn't always go the way you want, but it always goes the way that grows you.
Right.
And by the way, I think if we studied, name your top 10 most successful people in the world right now, you probably have a couple that come to mind at the top of your list. Right? I think they do this naturally. Right. No, without the spiritual side and without the, no religious aspect. I think that if you look at the people who are sitting there at the very top, they're not overthinking. They're not sitting there and over dwelling on things. If they're going to fail at something, but they're just going to shoot 10 times at the next thing that shows up in front of them. They're going to find their way through that, and they do it naturally. And they're not holding on to things. And I think you have to be a little bit of crazy to be at the very top of reality.
Well, that's like the Michael Jordan quote where I think it's my teammates have asked me to make the game-winning shot 100 times and I've missed, and I still keep going. That's why I'm Michael Jordan. That's a horrible paraphrase of the quote, but it's a part of it at least.
Yeah. So my wife just said the other day, she was like, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take."
That's the Wayne Gretzky quote.
Wayne Gretzky quote. Yeah. And there's a real truth to that. And those who have gone through this world and have done what we could call, by some measurement, great things, because I feel like, people do great things that don't make the news, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But by measuring, right, if you look at whether they're successful in business or they're successful in sports or they're successful in entertainment or some other field, they had a certain tenacity. A certain, I'm not going to give up on this, a delusion, the fact that they even could, that it was even possible.
Yeah.
But again, that person had that wiring because of everything that went into them.
Yeah.
And because of everyone beforehand that failed.
Right.
And it set the road. So if you want to use Michael Jordan as the metaphor. So it took, it was Bob Cousy and what's his name? The logo. I'm forgetting his name. Oh man, I'm embarrassed. All my basketball youth trivia just went out the other side of my brain. But it took all the greats before him, right, to even set it up for him to even
Jerry West, of course.
Jerry West, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I cheated. I googled it. I froze as well. It's Jerry West. Every NBA fan out there, do not kill us in the comments for this.
Oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed, especially because I'm from Los Angeles. So how could I have forgotten Jerry West? But yes, all of those who led the NBA before you have a Michael Jordan and a Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. See, I know a few things.
Well, yeah, I mean, no, I appreciate it. So let's go to our rapid fire round, and I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and you answer the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Ready? All right. What is one cause of inner resistance?
Desire to be loved.
What is one habit that blocks peace?
I'm now just thinking about the fact that it's supposed to be rapid fire. So what blocks peace? Overthinking.
That's the problem when you start thinking about the fact that you're thinking about
overthinking. I'll say it 10 times in a row.
What is one daily anchor for presence?
Meditation.
What is one spiritual myth to let go of?
I'm only good when I'm enlightened.
What is one word that captures awakening?
Presence.
Thank you so much for joining us. How can we connect with you more? How can we keep learning from you?
So I think I gave you access to the new ebook that we put out, which everyone can go get for free right now.
Yeah. We'll share the link in the show notes.
Yeah, it's down there. And beyond that, on YouTube, Instagram, and then I have got everything at my website, www.moshegersht.com.
Perfect. We'll add that as well to the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us. Any final words of wisdom before we let you go?
No outcomes are yours. All outcomes are good. Rest in the peace in the middle.
Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation with Moshe Gersht. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen, to learn, to work on yourself. And I really think you should acknowledge yourself for taking that step, because if you're still here, it tells me you're serious about your own growth. You're not just listening to interesting ideas. You want to take something from this and actually use it in your life. So this is why this section is my favorite part of the show, because me and the Swedish Wealth Institute team have gone through the interview and broken it down into 5 powerful lessons that you can implement right away. Because at the end, that's how we become 1% better every day. So here are the 5 lessons we took from this episode. Number 1, stop making happiness dependent on if there, then. I think this was one of the biggest ideas from Moshe. So many of us live with the belief that if we get there, then we will be happy. If we reach that goal, then we will feel safe. If we make that money, find that relationship, fix that problem, then finally we'll feel okay. But if happiness is always dependent on our next external outcome, we never actually arrive. Number 2, success does not automatically create peace. Moshe shared how even in the musical world, he saw people living what looked like the dream from the outside, but they were still escaping, numbing, and struggling internally. And I think that is such an important reminder. You can be successful at what you do and still not feel successful in your life. So the question is not just, am I achieving? It is also, am I becoming more whole, more present, more at peace? Number 3, the ego always says something should be different. So I really like Moshe's framework about noise, quiet, and light. The noise is the part of our mind that says, I should be different. They should be different. My life should be different. This moment should be different. And that is what creates so much suffering. The shift begins when we can quiet that noise enough to actually be with what is happening. Number 4, the next decision is enough. This is a powerful point. We often put so much pressure on ourselves to control the whole future, but Moshe's perspective is that you have free will to make the next right decision you can make with the information you have and the state you are in. That gives us both responsibility and it gives us grace. We still act, we still choose, but we don't need to carry the entire universe on our shoulders. Number 5, live from joy, not for joy. This may be the most important lesson from the whole episode. Most people are living for joy, for peace, for success, for love, for freedom. But Moshe is pointing us towards something deeper. What if we started from that place instead? What if success was not something we chased in order to feel good, but something we created from a deeper sense of goodness already inside you? Now, I would love to hear your thoughts. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please comment below with what were your takeaways. And if you're in the Swedish Wealth Institute journey, make sure you go in and comment on the post we made about this episode, because I'd love to hear and I'd love to create a conversation with the other members to see what is this about for you? What was your takeaways? Now, before you go, we've also prepared an action taker bonus for you. Because if you've listened this far, you've already shown commitment to your own growth. We are giving you tickets to our upcoming Financial Freedom Summit completely for free. We have one summit for the North American time zone, running the 10th to the 13th of September, and one for the European time zone, running from the 24th to the 27th of September. Obviously, you can join either one or both. The events feature an incredible lineup. They include, among others, Les Brown, Nick Vujicic, Jack Canfield, Brian Tracy, Jay Abraham, Marcy Shimoff, Janet Atwood, John Gray, Dr. John DeMartini, Joseph McClendon III, Rob Moore, Mark Victor Hansen, and about 20 other experts. You'll find the links in the show notes, so go there, claim your free ticket. And of course, if this episode gave you something useful, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And make sure you follow the podcast so you don't miss the next episode. Also, if you want to support the show, please give us a 5-star review. It helps us reach more people who are ready to grow, who are ready to take action, and to become 1% better every day. Next week is going to be an awesome show. I'm joined by Blair Singer. What I think makes this conversation especially interesting is that Blair goes directly into sales, leadership, and the little voice between our ears. We talk about why sales is one of the most important skills for an entrepreneur, why so many people resist selling because they're afraid of what others will think, and why learning to sell is not just about scripts and techniques, it's about breaking through fear, self-consciousness, and resistance. We talk about leadership, team trading, code of honor, and how to create an environment where people can grow. Blair's belief is that the number one job of a leader is to bring out the best in other people. This was an amazingly practical conversation for anyone building a business, leading a team, and trying to get better at communicating value. I learned so much from this episode, so I want to invite you in to join us. My name is Daniel Wood. This is the Swedish Wealth Institute Podcast. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being on this journey with us.